Well, hopefully everybody will now be in the process of joining us. We apologize profusely for the technical difficulties, everyone, but hopefully it will be well worth the wait. Hello and welcome to another Icelandic Roots public webinar, our final one for 2021. The name of it is Folklore and Family Storytelling, a perfect partnership. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Icelandic Roots, it is a not-for-profit organization that promotes and preserves our Icelandic heritage, culture, genealogy, and history. And we recently celebrated our 8th anniversary. To learn more, please contact us at www.icelandicroots.com. And you'll also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available within about a week or so on the Icelandic Roots YouTube channel. Since it is being held in the webinar format, all participants, other than the panelists, are muted and will not be visible. We encourage anyone to submit questions and comments using the Q&A section at the bottom of probably at the bottom of your screen, or the chat function also at the bottom of the screen. I am Jody Armand-Jones. I am located in Farmington, Minnesota. I am a volunteer with Icelandic Roots. Joining me today with the beautiful landscape scenery is Doug Hansen, who is our technical specialist, and he is out of Virginia. And now on to the main event. I am very pleased to introduce to you Karen Gummo, joining us from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. She holds bachelor degrees in fine arts and education from the University of Calgary. She's a founding member and former president of TALES, the Alberta League Encouraging Storytelling, and has served as the Western representative of the National Storytellers of Canada, Conteurs du Canada organization. For more than 30 years, she has performed far and wide as a creative storyteller, probing her Scandinavian heritage and exploring how family tales and folklore often go hand in hand. In 2015, she traveled to Iceland, where she was honored to present both traditional and family sagas. Karen, thank you so much for your patience and welcome. We look forward to your sharing insights with us today.
Oh, thank you, Jody. And thank you to all of you who have joined me and joined us today. I give special thanks to Suna Furstenau for dreaming up this whole organization and to my Icelandic Roots hosts, Jody and Doug. And Doug, we're starting with the story of you stuck under your car. But we'll learn more about that later. And the passage of time and who needs a watch. And Jen, thank you to all the generous listening ears who have come. I know there are family members who don't usually link up for these kinds of events, but are so interested in being connected. Thank you to Dawn Gislason, to Nelson Gerard, Stefan Jonason, Bill Belgerton. I wrote a long list. Christine Stewart-Smith, Auntie Pearl, Dorothy Murray, Oider Magnusdóttir, Gudrun Jóransdóttir, on and on. Viva Reinsen, and my mom and dad, and my grandmother Struna, and my grandfather Svein, and Tom Swainson, and so many more. How are we connected? Oh, we only need to sit down beside each other for a minute and exchange a story, and we discover how we are connected. I want to think about and honor the fact that we are all born as artists. I'm discovering as I work with children and I work with senior citizens and dementia patients, and we can so quickly find a connection between us, right? Those 7 degrees of separation. Let's think about right away. I'm going to hear from you in the chat. Know that you're with me. I can't see your faces, but I can dream of them. And I invite you to make your mark in this group. I want you to think right now in all of your letter writing, in your times of of sitting down beside someone at a doctor's office or in your emails, what kinds of stories do you tell about your family? And I want you to just think about that really quickly. And then in the chat, just start to lay it out. One word at a time, 2 words, and I'm going to read them out loud. Let's get started. Okay, who's going to give us the first kind of story they like to tell in the doctor's office? Love stories. Absolutely. We want to know what brought us together with our crazy husband. Tales about our grandchildren. Oh, those brilliant and gifted people that have joined our lives. Travels. Oh, when we travel, we meet a stranger every time. What else? What else? Traveling, love, farm stories, the old days. Oh, the olden days. We used to ask our parents to give us those tales of the olden days. What food did you eat? Did you know that our ancestors ate that fermented shark meat? Did you know about vinaterta? What else? What else? Genealogy. How am I connected to you and you to me? Aren't we all related? Especially if we have roots in Iceland. We're related. And so, any more things coming up? I noticed Suna put something up twice. You can put an idea up twice. But if not, now think about, and maybe something else will come on the chat. Think about, traditional tales. What kind of old folklore stands out in your mind as a favorite? Oh, sheep wool, knitting, hard work. We are all hard workers. We want to know about that. And so maybe there's a folk tale about sheep and knitting. Oh, Grilla would know about that. And the Yola Kotteren. What else? What's a traditional tale that doesn't have to be Icelandic. It can be from anywhere. What do you love to hear? What do you remember your mother or your father reading to you? What is a story that you love? Oh, fairy tales. Yes, with magic in them. Christmas traditions. What are they? Do we have anything that connects to our cousins in Iceland and to our cousins all over North America and the world? What kind of trouble do we get into in the darkest days of the year? What else? Yule lads. I didn't know about the Yule lads until just lately. I think when our ancestors came across, it wasn't so popular yet. And they didn't even know about the Yule lads, but I love to know about them because it also connects me to my Danish background. Debates. I want to know, what are your ideas? What are mine? Sometimes that debating caused rifts in the community. I know that the first library in Alberta is called the Even Reading and Debating Society. If you had a passion about an idea, you would join that debating society. Food, vinaterta, rullepølse, hangikjot, hardfisker. Oh, I love all those words. And what school was like in the olden days. Thank you for that. Thank you for your connections to the stories that you love, the stories that move you. And thank you. Now it's time to honor all those stories. I bring this basket with me wherever I go. This is my story basket. Has a diamond on the front made by my parents' Danish neighbor, Johanna Biskup. And inside this basket, first of all, there's the tale of Cormorant and Eider Duck from the Faroe Islands. And there are all kinds of artifacts and bits and pieces and matches to light the fire. And since we're not all gathered in a hall where we worry about fire, yes, the best was when the ancestors who had died but still made their presence known sat and visited around the dining room table. Yes, and they would have lit a candle. So let's light a candle to light the fire of our imaginations. And we'll light this candle, and you just can know that it is burning for you and for our connection to our families and to each other. And we blow it out. And here's the globe that represents the whole world that we have spread ourselves across, and the glittering jewels of stories that we would find. And I made up a song, and I invite you to repeat after me. Oh, repeat after me these words. A story is a treasured thing. Can you say that? A story is a treasured thing, a gift for you and me. Our trials, troubles, cares, and dreams are there for all to see, are there for all to see. So tell me now a little tale. So tell me now a little tale, and I will listen too, and I will listen too. Give it magic, grace, and love. Give it magic, grace, and love, and make it true to you, and make it true to you. Beautiful. Thank you for your singing and for your generous listening ears. I'll put this candle over here on the table by my mother-in-law's suitcase, which is full of stories. Okay. So the story, I'm just going to take a drink from a glass that my brother gave to me. Thank you, Rick. Baby in our family. 5 older sisters. Poor guy. I want to start off with a story given to me by my mother's second cousin. So this was a family that I didn't know about until Don Gislason phoned me and told me about this book. And when I mentioned to Don that I am passionate about storytelling, he said, the very best Icelandic storyteller that I know of is your mother's second cousin, Evans Thordarson, who lives in Mozart, Saskatchewan. I said, tell me more. And Don, in his inimitable fashion, probably gave me the phone number, and I got busy and gave him a call. It was a good thing he did. I did, because, and Evans was home, because he gave me a beautiful story that connected me to people in the Calgary Leif Erikson Club, who I love, and then to the community of Mozart and family that were unknown even to my mother, really. And so this is the story that Evans gave to me over the phone. And he said, when I was a little boy living in Mozart, Saskatchewan, we were farmers and we didn't have very much money, but I liked to go, when I could, to the train station because I didn't have any money to come or go anywhere, but I liked to see who did. Who were the newcomers in the town of Mozart, the village of Mozart? Who was coming to be reunited with family? Evans said that he used to conceal himself behind a doorway and then look out to watch the hush of the steam as it rose from the train, as it snaked its way into the station. He liked to watch the embrace of lovers long separated and smell their leather coats and see the glorious suitcases arriving in great mounds, or not. And then he liked to linger and just listen to the gossip. He reminded me of myself, opening up his great big ears, were not so big. And Oscar Jonsson was postmaster at Mozart. And it was, Evans was born in 1943. So say, I don't know what year it was. He didn't say. But except that it was a time when the RCMP were very concerned about communist activity. And there was one man in the neighborhood, in the community, Mr. Auskirsen, the father of my friend Thordis, the grandfather of David Gutnick, who had a program on CBC radio for many years and maybe still does. Thordis Gutnick's father was Mr. Auskirsen, and he had socialist leanings. Now, Oscar Jonsson knew that there was little to worry about. Mr. Auskirsen only cared about the welfare of others and was concerned that everyone be well looked after. But still, the RCMP were concerned, and they said to Mr. Jonsson they wanted to know what was Mr. Auskirsen reading. And so they dispatched 2 young RCMP officers out to the home of Mr. Auskirsen to just take a look at what he was reading. But when they arrived at the household, they were welcomed, maybe for coffee and some pannekakor, I don't know. But they looked at all the reading material on the shelves and on the table, and it was all in Icelandic. So how could they decipher it? But they didn't mind, because Mr. Auskirsen had 2 beautiful daughters. And so I think to myself, when I look back at that scene in my mind, and I wonder, Mr. Auskirsen, what kind of story would you have kept on your shelves? What kind of a story, a folktale, would you have wanted to offer to your daughters to bring them courage to face difficult times? Could it have been the story of Prince Hlini and clever Signy? Here is the tale the way I remember it and the way I found it in a wonderful book of Icelandic folklore that I'll show you later. It happened in Iceland that there was a great prince, beloved by his parents, only son, and he went out on a hunting trip with the king's retainers, his father's servants. They ventured far, and then at last, before they were finished, a heavy fog descended, and Prince Hlini was lost. The retainers returned with the sad news that Prince Hlini was nowhere to be found. The queen was beside herself. The king was full of worry and sent out search parties, and no one could find Prince Hlini. They feared the worst. Was he trapped somewhere? What kind of being would have so entrapped him? At last, the king sent out a decree that whoever could find the prince would gain for a prize half his kingdom. There were young men who tried and tried again, and all failed. But in that district, there was also a clever young woman by the name of Signy, the daughter of a cotter. She wished to take up the challenge. And so she asked her parents to prepare for her a satchel of food. They did so. And also they prepared for her a new pair of sheepskin shoes. She set off on her journey and went for a day, and then another one. And then descending into a narrow, rocky valley, she came upon a cave. And looking, peering inside, what did she see but stalactites, stalagmites, all the formations magical that you would find inside a cave. And there, in the dim light, she could see 2 beds, one embroidered with gold, one with silver, and each one carved with runic symbols she could not understand. She looked, and on the gold embroidered bed, there was Prince Lini. She hurried up to the bed and tried to rouse him. Oh, he did have a handsome face. But no matter what she did, she could not rouse him. And just then she heard heavy footsteps and deep breathing. And backing up into a corner of the cave, she hid herself while 2 great giantesses emerged into the cave, their long claws dragging along the ground, their dreadlocks swooping over their shoulders. They hurried up to the bed and they said, "Sing, sing, my swans. Sing Prince Lini awake." And there she saw Prince Lini fluttered his eyelids and he did not sit up. He looked sad and lay back in the bed. And then they asked him, would he marry the youngest one? And would he dine with them? To both these questions, he answered in the negative. And then they called upon the swans to sing him to sleep again. And he was out cold. The 2 giantesses crawled into the other bed, and there they snored their way through the night, while Signy hovered, cowered in her cold hiding place. In the morning, they woke him again, singing, asking for the singing swans. The swans sang, and the prince sat up, and they offered him breakfast, and he refused. And so they disappeared out into the day. Now, when all signs of them were gone, Signy came out of her hiding place and she called, "Sing, sing, my swans. Sing Prince Lini awake. Bibio blaka altinarbaka." Oh no, that was a lullaby. Don't fall asleep. The swans sang and Prince Lini sat up and now they looked into each other's eyes and there was an attraction there. Each one explained what had happened. And Signy thought for a moment and she said, "My friend, when they return again, I will go to my hiding place. You must answer yes to their questions. Yes, you will marry. Yes, you will dine with them, but only if they tell you what it is they do through the day and what is the meaning of the symbols carved in the end of the bed." And so then Prince Lini invited Signy to jump up on the bed, and they spent the day engaging in a masterful game of chess. Then the sound of that hot and putrid breath, the sound and the smell of it, and then those long fingernails dragging on the ground, and Signy took her hiding place. Oh, sang him to sleep first, or something. He pretended to be asleep, perhaps. In came the trolls, called upon the swans to wake him, and he was awakened, and he did everything right. Said he would marry the youngest one, and offered to eat what they prepared. And then he said, But first, before I promise that I will marry you, tell me what it is that you do during the day and what is the meaning of the symbols at the end of the bed. Ah, said they, well, it is glide, glide, my good bed, where'er I wish to go. And we go out on a hunt, don't you know? And then we finish the day by tossing our life egg between us. Oh, said the prince, and what should happen if the egg breaks? Well, we would die, of course, he answered. So they dined, they slept, they woke him in the morning with the swan's aid, and then they asked him if he wished to join them on the hunt. He declined, claiming he was too tired. And they went out into the day. Now, Signy emerged from her hiding place, sang him awake, for the trolls had done their part of singing him to sleep again through the swan's help. And now they waited, engaging in a few moves, possibly on the chessboard, until some time had elapsed. And then they said, it is time. It must be time. It must be. And standing on the bed, they called out, glide, glide, my good bed, out to the old oak tree. I forgot to tell you, that is where the two trolls finished their day. And so now the bed silently traveled out of the tent and over and away and against those trees. And now they watched as the giantesses tossed the eggs between them. And suddenly, Queenie knew. For Signy said, make your aim true, our very lives depend upon it. And he took his javelin and he threw it. And the egg was struck and it broke, and the two trolls fell upon the ground, foam pouring from their mouths. Now, Signy and Cleany called the bed to take them back to the cave, and they gathered up valuables there, and then called the bed to carry them home again, where they stopped at the cotter's cottage to spend the night, while Signy hurried over to the castle to speak to the king. The king was full of sorrow and would not at first even come to give her audience, and yet she insisted, and she questioned if she were the one to bring back the prince, would she receive the reward that was promised? Well, the king doubted and said that no man had ever brought back his son, so how could she do it? But yes, if she was successful, she would get the reward. And the next day, Signy brought Cleany with her, and Cleany set her between himself and the king and explained in great detail all the cleverness and heroism of his beloved. And the king had to agree she was a marvel, and the two of them declared their love for each other, and the king thought, yes, they could get married. And so half the kingdom, really the whole kingdom must have come to them. But the king invited noble folk from all around. They celebrated for a whole week, and Signy and Cleany lived together in glorious love. And no more is known of that tale. At least, I don't think so. Kotra uti imiri, seti upasjastiri, uti äventiri. That's the end of that adventure. Thoughts. Oh, let's take a breath. Thoughts. I invite you to say in the chat, I love happy endings. think about what in that, I'm glad you do, Jody, because I do too. I look for them all the time. And as I'm engaged in watching that series called Trapped, I'm really, that's what I'm holding on to. There's going to be a happy ending somewhere. What does that story, where is there a truth in that story for you? Or how do you find a connection to that story? Tell me, do. Always children say to me, is that a true story? And I say, there's truth, a grain of truth in every tale, sometimes a whole bucket load. Where's the truth for you in that story? Where do you find yourself in that story? And now I invite you to say in the chat a few words in response to that story. Just breathe in and let your fingers do the typing. Tell me something you connected with in that story. Maybe you love spelunking. Maybe trolls are real. Yes, trolls are real. Absolutely. When you go to Iceland and you see all those rock formations, trolls are real. There's something for everyone. Happy endings. Gore. You need gore. Things are not always as they seem. I just think about, no wonder we have that song about, that they sang, the Sprengisandi. No, not that one. Things are not always as they seem. And therefore we can find a dream. Any other truths in that story? Persistence is important, right? And new shoes are vital. I think our ancestors have so many tales to tell about their shoes. Okay, anything else? Trolls, elves, and Huldefolk are important. And have they come to North America? I think they have. Our grandmother tells a story about a lost doll that I think explains why that they have come. And of course, our First Nations people know that there are hidden people in this land, and they have their own tales to tell about them that we could connect to, for we all are related. Okay, I'm going to share the screen now, quickly. Share screen. And I'm just going to let these images wash over you, because I want you to think about what you have in your treasure chest that could lead to story making. And so I'm going to, back to that, share my screen and bring up these slides. I'm not going to say anything about them until the end, and let's just look at them, and you can see maybe from this how you're related to me. Okay. Great. So thoughts. Those pictures makes you want to visit Iceland as soon as possible. Those pictures are of such Icelandic faces. They look like all our family. And yes, we are related, all of us. So cousins, I want you to think about what you have in your treasure boxes that you use for making stories. And I wanted to check with Doug and Jody to see, can we go, until 10:15? Or all of you are welcome to stay. I'll stay till 10:15 to make our full hour.
Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Fine with Suna, fantastic. So when I am, working on a story, and so first of all, of course, you want to phone Auntie Pearl, or you want to phone Don Gislason and say, do you really know my great-grandfather? And what about my mom's cousin how did you know Evans Thorderson? And tell me about when he went to Paris and how he got his PhD. Tell me more. So, of course, you want to get on the phone and you want to be at all those family reunions that Dorothy, my cousin, attends so faithfully with me. And you want to be someone who cherishes treasures like my brother Rick and all of you. And then, so you need a journal. I'm sure many of you have journals. And these things are full of bits and pieces of recorded interviews over the telephone. They're full of clippings and drawings and just all manner of things. And then you want to start researching, and you want to be lucky enough to find your grandmother's diary, that talks about that Jerry and Bill had them over for dinner, and that's got clippings from newspapers of the time and old letters in it. What are some of the really unusual resources you have sought out? You want to talk to Nelson Gerard and have him reveal to you how much he knows about your extended family. That's beyond belief. Photo albums. Yes, those are so fun. What else? Community history books. So I have become addicted, reaching out to distant relatives. Yes. So through a phone call, emails. I feel so lucky because Oyder Magnusdóttir, who is our third cousin and taught us Icelandic in Calgary and now is back in Reykjavik. Newspaper clippings, obituaries, yes. So Oyder, I can just send her an email and ask for a rhyme, ask for things. And she gives me something. And I was asking her, where in Iceland do you think that story of Prince Hlini originated? And she said, I don't know. I asked my sister-in-law, who's an expert on folklore, and she said that story is just beloved all over the place. And she loves to think about how stories in the Philippines are connected. Because of course the people in the Philippines are our cousins too, and all over the world. And I remembered that that's why I like storytelling so much, because it makes me know that people have always had the same greed that I have, or desire to be loved. And my grandfather Sigurd wrote many letters about family memories, and my grandmother saved copies of them carefully for us. Gotta send some in. Yeah. So when I'm really Icelandic roots and all the special features, database, stories of the crossing, special features, timeline of events, blog posts, newsletter, much more. Oh, it's overwhelming what's being done. So what I do when I'm wanting to develop a story and keep it in my mind. Now, this one was about, Stenen, and the story that I discovered by looking at Don Gislison's book, Icelanders of Kinmount. And then I wanted to try to imagine what it was like for a 7-year-old. So I had to imagine lots of things, but I ended up, in order to remember the story, I get some old computer paper and I cut it up, and it, then I and this one ended up being too long. The poor people in Markerville, they asked me to tell it at an annual general meeting, and I needed to end a little sooner, but it was hard because the story is so incredible. But putting it in this form, this visual form, and so small, I can put it in my pocket and then go for a walk. And when I'm stuck, then I get it out again and I remember, oh yeah, those were the birth dates, and oh yeah, who came first, and oh. Another thing I do is to, I make these books. This one, someone has doodled on, but I made it for my mother-in-law, who isn't Icelandic, but anyway, you can create these books just with a very few words and have fun. Get your grandchildren to color them. And it's just made from a single piece of paper that looks like this. And then you cut a slit in the middle and you fold and fold, and it becomes a book. And then you can stitch it together with thread. So many possibilities. Anyway, what else? I wanted to get you to have time to ask me some questions. Oh gosh. Let's leave time for that. And then there could be something more.
Karen, one question that came up was they wanted to verify the name of the book from Kinmount, and I believe that was in your slide presentation, was it not? Icelanders of Kinmount by Donald Gislison?
Yes, that's right. And as he says, it's a new, easy to use copy that they have now with the coil at the side. And wow, I mean, I guess Nelson Gerard has told me that we are also related to Jon Ronvaldsen, who wrote the diary accounts that tell us so much about the journey, and there's that beautiful poem by Stefan Gay Stephenson that tells about the time of waiting for the boat. I used to have that in my memory. It's just not quite there right now. What else?
Karen, do you have suggestions on how to elicit stories and responses from family members as we hopefully gather this holiday season?
Oh, that's a really good question. One thing I find is, when you light the candles and get everyone to just, or invite them to stop and breathe around the dining room table, around a Christmas tree with real candlelight on it, perhaps, as our sister Faye has taught us to do, and offer some silence and wait, and you'll get the tale like the one our dad would tell us about going to the Christmas concert and the sound of the sleigh bells, the horses crunching through the snow. I think that, that respectful silence and that the candlelight is just vital.
Does anyone else have questions?
I wonder, sometimes you just need a moment to just breathe In and out. I want to tell you before you go that the next project I'm working on is the story of Laura Salverson, and it connects all of us too. And I look forward to connecting with you more about how you are connected to Laura, because I get to play the role of Laura Salverson for a literary conference here. And she is an amazing woman who was told the sagas, by her father, Laurus Woodmanson, as they moved and moved and moved. And here are some of my other sources. One of my favorite books for getting Scandinavian, because we're Danish on one side and Icelandic on the other. So this is a really beautiful book. And this one I got from my daughter last year for Christmas. I don't think it's written by an Anglophone because the language in it is really a bit odd. But yeah. So, but those diaries from our grandparents, wow, so beautiful. Even, just had a WI meeting at Mrs. Hamilton's, first meeting since June, lovely weather. And at first you think, oh, what is that? That's only an anecdote. That's not giving me anything. Beautiful weather, 80 degrees above. Roy came out to help on these very warm days. Took 3 geraniums, or anyway. But sometimes you only get like the little teeny tiny thing. And I would get, I have from my grandmother. When I was a child, I dropped my doll down between the walls of our newly framed wooden house. And just that anecdote speaks volumes of, oh, you were born in a turf cottage. That's right. And now you are going to feel like a princess moving in with a bedroom on the upper story of a home on the prairie lands that look much like Iceland. Oh, your parents walked there. After getting off the train at Calgary, they walked for 4 days in a wagon with your older sister, who was only 4 months old after being born in Winnipeg. Oh, you have so much more to tell me. But you're gone now, Nanny, Struna. What can I imagine? What folktale connects to that? What speaks volumes to me, says Elfrida, is discovering someone's nickname. Yes. Stories of pieces of handmade furniture crossing the ocean on a whaler ship. Old Bibles passed down with marriage, deaths, baptism dates. Yes. My sister is Faye Mogensen. Yes, I'm from the Mogensen family. We're Danish and Icelandic. And our parents were great storytellers. My husband Christian tells us of how they waited for the ships near the time of Christmas, as that was the only time they got to have a treasured orange and apple that came in. They lived in the north of Iceland on a mountainside in a partial turf home and were farmers. Such gifted and hard-working people. Thank you, Jerry. My neighbor and my dad used to hay your father's fields on Oldfield Road. Nice to meet you, Ruth Jonathan Cartwright. Oh, Faye has told me about you. We must be cousins. Beautiful. Well, yes, there is so much more that we could say, and yet we need to get on with our day. Very nice to meet you, Ruth. We'll look up to see how we're related. And because of Icelandic roots, we can do that. And so I want to thank all of you for taking some time out of your Saturday to be with us today. And thank you, Suna, for encouraging me to do this. I wanted to show you the world tree that's behind my head that is a symbol of our connection to and our connection to ancient peoples all over the world. And I want to finish with an Icelandic song that I'm addicted to, and I sing it whenever I ride my bike. And then we'll blow out the candle and make a wish. So it goes. And I learned this from Auður Magnúsdóttir at my Icelandic class. And maybe you know it. I bet you know it. It's the song that they sing when they go out, gird their loins, and try to be bold when they go out and round up their sheep in the fall. So, Ríðum, ríðum, reykjum í fyrsandinn, rennar sól á bak við Þarnarfell. Hér á reykjir margur úrin andinn, úr fer að skyggja jökulsfell. Drottin leiði drusillinn minn, ruggur verður síðast í áfanginn. Drottin leiði drusillinn minn, ruggur verður síðast í áfanginn. And there's more about the fox on the hill who wants to wet her gums with your blood. And there's more about the elfin queen. It is not good to get in her way. And there is more about wanting to be at home again. Home safe, which is the place that stories take me to, that welcoming hearth of home. And we've told stories so long that the candle has snuffed itself out. So thank you, friends.
Thank you very much, Karen. You've given us quite a bit to think about. And I hope this upcoming holiday season offers all of us the opportunity to gather additional stories and tales of our families. And a reminder that, as you already said, Icelandic Roots is the ideal platform for us to keep these stories, to be able to preserve them for future generations. So thank you very much for taking time. To the rest of you, our public audience, just a reminder that this is our last public webinar for 2021. There will be a members-only webinar on December 12th about Icelandic Christmas traditions, foods, and memories. And then the next public webinar will be in January on the 18th, where we'll be speaking with a botany professor from Iceland who's going to share her secrets of using Icelandic plants and how she uses them with wool. So thank you again, Karen. Doug, you're very much appreciated. And especially you viewers, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your stories, your thoughts, your comments with us. Karen, I hope you've been reading them because they're still coming in. And we wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season and look forward to sharing with you in the coming year. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.